Jake Claver says all the money will run through the XRP ledger. What does that mean? I'm going to go ahead and explain it to you. We also have some new information here about Ripple Prime that you have to hear does involve XRP in a massive way. And the markets are back open today on Black Friday. A lot of shopping deals. I know people are out. There'll be a link in the description of this video for Ledger and Decent. Decent has one of the best deals of the year. Some of the stuff is 40% off, and Ledger has some really great things too. Go ahead and take a look at that if you need a custody wallet. Okay, so all the money from Jake Claver. XRP and RLUSD will route from the XRP Ledger and XRPL to EVM to Solana through starting this December. Final ITS audit updates are underway. After that, the Axelar Solana integration should be ready to go. Now, what does this mean? Before let's just talk about what this actually means, and then we'll get into all of the money. So this is big for interoperability and liquidity step. It connects XRP and USD more directly to Solana, DeFi, and trading ecosystem via Axelar, which can strengthen Ripple's institutional story and expand XRP's actual usage if volumes materialize. And then the tweet describes Axelar is extending its bridge to the XRP, and RLUSD can move from the XRPL to the XRPL EVM sidechain to Solana, with go live targeted December after final audits. Axelar already connects the XRPL EVM sidechain to dozens of other chains. I believe it's 55. So Solana becomes another high liquid venue for the network, not just a one-off. The implications here for Ripple. Ripple's RLUSD stablecoin is being positioned as a cross-chain dollar asset running preliminary on the XRP Ledger and the EVM sidechain, with Axelar and the other bridges making it available on many networks, including Solana. This supports Ripple's institutional pitch of one integration, many chains for tokenization and payments, and real-world asset flows, because banks and asset managers can tap XRPL, but it will still reach ecosystems like Solana without bespoke engineerings per chain. And of course, the implications here for XRP, RLUSD transactions and apps are expected to settle mainly on the XRP Ledger and the XRPL EVM sidechain. And those transactions consume and burn XRP gas. That's not really going to do too much. Anytime someone says the gas is going to come into play, just tell those people, just quiet down now, right? Over the last, 13 years, we burned through like 14 million XRP. If every transaction in the world happened on the XRP Ledger, I'm talking about every transaction, you would only burn through 30 to 40 million XRP per year. It's never going to impact in our lifetimes. So unless something changes with the burn rate, don't expect that to come in anytime soon, guys, please. As Axelar and Squid enable one-click deployments of cross-chain routing, DeFi and real-world asset projects can use wrapped or bridged XRP as collateral or yield-bearing capital on multiple chains, potentially deepening liquidity and TVL tied back to XRP, even if the front-end user is on Solana or other networks. Now, let's talk about all the money here, because I wanted to just give you some examples of what this actually means. So all the money will run on the XRP Ledger is a meme level way of saying that in full adoption scenario, most global value transfers and payments could be routed through the XRP Ledger as a neutral plumbing for banks, fintechs, CBDs, stablecoins, and tokenized assets. As it is an aspirational marketing language, not a literal forecast that every dollar, euro, or asset will exclusively use the XRP Ledger. The origin of this phase, the phase grew out of a long-running XRP community narratives that position XRP as a universal bridge asset for cross-border payments and liquidity. Over time, it fused with meme culture around all the money. Branding the tokens like ATM meme coins on the XRP Ledger reinforced when Ripple CEO referenced all the money on stage at XRPL events. So Brad, I love when he does that. He takes something in the community and he throws a little bit of extra, mystique around it. I think that's a lot of fun. Most advocates mean technically, when people say all the money in this context, they usually mean cross-border bank and remittance flows using XRPL as settlement and liquidity rail, with XRP as a bridge between currencies, stablecoin RLUSD, tokenized deposits, and other fiat representatives issued on the XRPL, and moving over its DEX, AMM, and payment channels. Tokenized real-world assets, we're talking about securities, commodities, and real-world assets, and DeFi actively setting on the XRPL and or on its side chains, with XRP used for fees and liquidity. In this version, XRPL is the TCP of value that most institutions and apps plug into, even if end users never use it directly. So I just wanted to give you that a little bit of extra due diligence. Now, Ripple Prime, we need to talk about this. So yes, Ripple can sell XRP to OTC clients, although it has previously stated that it has ceased its old OTC sales model in favor of selling XRP through its on-demand liquidity product. However, Ripple has also launched a new institutional-focused digital asset prime brokerage called Ripple Prime through its acquisition of Hidden Road, which enables U.S. institutions to execute over-the-counter OTC stop trades in major digital assets, including XRP. So a lot of questions in the community is like, once the OTC desks dry up, where are these institutions going to get XRP? Well, Ripple Prime is one of the biggest answers that I can give you. And so it does talk about Ripple Prime as a new platform allows institutional clients to trade major digital assets, including XRP, over the counter. This is different from Ripple's old OTC sales model, which involves selling XRP directly to sophisticated counterparties at a discount. Imagine you going to Ripple and buying XRP when it was like 25 cents, 30 cents at an even bigger discount. That is just some really incredible forward thinking from people. And then it says future possibility. The new Ripple Prime platform creates a channel for institutional clients to engage in OTC trading with Ripple, which could be considered a new form of OTC sales. Now, why is this so important? Why hasn't the price moved? We've seen what, over $500 million in demand for buying XRP off the open market through these ETFs in the last 2 weeks. Now, why hasn't that affected the price as much as maybe people thought it would? Because a lot of these sales, most all of these sales are happening off market in these OTC desks, over the counter sales desks. Okay. There's only a few billion, maybe 1 to 2 billion XRP on these OTC desks. Once they go through that, then they would be forced to go to, of course, Ripple. And if Ripple doesn't have, they would need to go to the open market. Now, the interesting part here, because of the Ripple escrow, there's only so much XRP that would get unlocked per month. And also Ripple is going to need to make an executive decision here. Do they unleash all of that escrowed XRP to support these ETFs? Or do they, say, hey, we're only going to unleash 30%. That's all we're going to do. We're going to relock up the rest and we're going to be good stewards. Because what I don't want to see is Ripple going, like last year, they relocked every month. 1 billion XRP was unlocked. Usually they relocked about 80% of that, so 800 million. This year, we've seen the billion unlocked every month, and usually about 70% gets relocked. We have seen some months that are above and below that, so just want to give you those averages. What I don't want to see is we go into next year and none of it is getting relocked up, because then there's just going to be so much supply on the open market, and we really don't want to see that. And so I'm wondering how Ripple is going to handle this. And that's why I said this is really important news and information that you need to know, because this could impact XRP's price for the good or the bad. I will keep you completely up to date with single thing I find on this channel. So make sure that you're following and you have the bell notification turned on when we put out content. You are going to want to see all of this, guys. All right, let's switch it up here. The ETF funds only have a few options to source XRP. I thought this was additionally helpful. No, Ripple cannot sell XRP directly to institutional investors at this time because of a 2023 court ruling deemed those institutional sales to be unregistered securities offerings. While the SEC has dropped its appeal and granted Ripple a waiver to raise capital under a specific exemption, institutional investors can still purchase XRP through other channels such as digital asset exchanges or upcoming spot ETFs. Direct institutional sales were prohibited in 2023. The U.S. court ruled that Ripple's direct sales of XRP to institutional investors under written contracts violated securities law. Programmatic sales are not prohibited. The court determined that programmatic or algorithmic sales of XRP on public exchanges were not unregistered securities offerings because the buyers did not know who they were buying or they were buying directly from Ripple. Ripple can now seek capital from institutions. Following the SEC's waiver, Ripple is now permitted to raise capital from accredited investors without registering with the SEC, but it still doesn't mean that it can resume the direct unregistered institutional sales in the past. Institutional investors can still buy XRP. Institutional investors can still acquire XRP by purchasing it on digital asset trading platforms through other means, such as potential future XRP base or ETFs, and currently under SEC review. So you start to wonder here, right? And this is just for US, right? And so if your bank is outside of the US, you don't fall under these US laws and guidelines. And so Ripple is kind of free to do what they want. So it'll be kind of a cat and mouse game how all of these companies and institutions get around all of this. Ripple's acquisition of G Treasury is basically dropping real-time blockchain-based liquidity into the heart of the corporate treasury. And yes, that creates competitive pressure on every other treasury and payments vendor to move towards similar 24/7, 365 rails. What Ripple plus G Treasury actually changed? Because this is what I was really thinking about. G Treasury platform already connects large corporations to their banks, ERPs, and cash FX workflows. Ripple is now wiring those workflows into its blockchain rails, stablecoins like RLUSD, and on-demand liquidity style cross-border infrastructure so payments and liquidity can move and settle almost instantly instead of days. The combined stack is a pitch as active trapped capital. Same day or near instant settlement reduces cash in transit, lowers FX exposure windows, and lets treasurers redeploy idle balances into yield or pay down debt instead of parking them in Nostro accounts. So never before have these financial institutions had the ability to start earning additional capital daily or hourly on money that is just sitting idle in these places. And so Ripple with their technology is going to be able to supercharge these workflows and allow these institutions or corporations to do even more with their money. And this is why it's going to force the rest of the industry to follow suit very quickly, because when one company has these advantages, it puts every other company that's competing against that company at a disadvantage, right? They're still using the Nostro Vostro accounts. They're not getting the additional yield or on their capital. They can't deploy it on weekends. They can't, there's just like, we could go through 100 list of why this technology is better than the old rails, right? We just don't have the time here in this video, but you understand what I'm saying here. There's just so many added values and it's cheaper. What? We can do all this stuff and it's cheaper? All right, please count me in. Where do I sign? Where do I sign? The combined stack is pitched. Oh, we did read that. Excuse me. Why 24/7 access matters for treasurers. Traditional cross-border payments force corporations to pre-fund accounts and live with 3 to 5 day settlement with 3 to 7% fees on opaque tracking. Digital asset rails cut settlement to minutes, reduce costs 60 to 90%, and provide real-time visibility, which directly improves working capital and risk management. Real treasury case studies already show millions of dollars in trapped liquidity being freed up when a portion of international payments moves to instant rails. And G Treasury is now embedding exactly that type of capability at scale for Fortune 500 clients. Competitive pressure on vendors. This is it. G Treasury's main rivals, Kybera, FIS Treasury, and Risk Manager, Ion Treasury, or Copa Treasury, are selling full stack TMS platforms to the same enterprise clients. So if one vendor offers embedded real-time blockchain rails, the others either match it or risks being seen as batch only or bank hours systems. At the same time, big banks like JP Morgan and fintechs like Modern Treasury are publicly pushing real-time and stablecoin based treasury solutions, which means always on liquidity is quickly becoming table stakes rather than nice feature to have, which means if you want to stay a treasury bank or corporation or a company that helps these companies globally, you have to have this technology. That is what we want to hear. Does everyone have to use blockchain rails? I don't really need to get into that. Obviously, you know what's gonna come, but there's just so many incredible pieces, right? We have all of this ETF stuff, then you have the G Treasury stuff, and then you have the EVM sidechain stuff, and then you have what's going on with Flare and Midnight. I mean, I just can't keep up with the smiles. All right, and then you have the banking license. What is that going to do? What is that going to provide? What clarity are we gonna get with that, right? Here's Brad talking about this just a few months ago.
Speaking of banks, I mean, Ripple has applied for a national bank charter.
Yes.
Can you just sort of give a brief overview, any updates in that process? How are things going there?
I don't know the exact answer. I mean, look, I think it depends who you talk to. It's been a little disappointing to see some of the traditional banks start to lobby against things like that. It's like, look, if we want more stability, we want clear regulation, having a Fed master account actually is a net plus to that. You want to de-risk stablecoins. Having Circle have a Fed master account, have Ripple have a Fed master account, that's actually a good thing. And held to the same regulatory standards as a bank. Great, we're in. We feel like we're already doing that. Ripple launched our stablecoin under a New York Trust license, which we feel like is the gold standard above what even others have done, because we are all about serving institutional money movement. And institutions aren't going to work with us unless we have really leaned into being compliance first.
Oh, can you imagine the moment you get the announcement that Ripple's bank license is approved? Also, what I'm really looking forward to is an announcement from like a BlackRock, Fidelity, a Vanguard that they're interested in putting out a spot XRP ETF. I think that would send shockwaves through the market. And I think that would really add additional value, obviously, going forward. So we're online today here. So far, just in the first 30 minutes of trading, you saw, 45,000, 23,000, 16,000, and 9,000 shares sold of the spot XRP ETFs. And remember, each one of these shares represents a certain amount of XRP. You'd have to look at exactly which is which, and sometimes it changes over time. So, but a lot of really great things are happening. Here's some of the XRP market updates for 2 hours and 30 minutes since market opening. We saw about $4.67 million Canary Capital. Franklin Templeton is about 4.24 million. Bitwise is about 4 million. Grayscale is about 1.6, and Rex Osprey is about 1.4. Obviously, it's slowing down a bit, but a lot of people are traveling and on vacation right now. So just to see, $15, $20 million here, maybe $15 million in the first few and a half hours, we still can pace 25 or 30 million throughout the whole day just with these 5 products. And imagine once we get the 21 shares, the coin shares, and there's one other one that I can't remember. There's just so much going on in my head, but really exciting times. All right, Chad Signgrabber said, when you see 11.64 million XRP getting moved into Coinbase, it's no coincidence with Coinbase as the primary custodian for asset managers. This is institutions stacking XRP straight in a cold wallet. I mean, that's what they're doing, right? Coinbase has often been one of the go-to players for the custody of these assets, and they probably are one of the biggest companies in the world for custody. And so this is where institutions feel safe among other corporations and companies, but you're going to see a lot of XRP being moved into Coinbase specifically for those reasons. Listen, I don't want the video to go too long. Thank you for being here. Guys, if you got any value, you can like the video. You can leave a comment down below. You can share this video with someone in your life that you're interested in giving them more information about XRP. I would absolutely adore you for that. Just thank you so much for your time. And, I hope you get a good deal on Black Friday, whatever it is that you're shopping for. I haven't even looked. Too much to do today, but I'll look later. All right. I'll see you guys. Peace.